Memorial. Our platinum sponsors, Fire Automotive, Diener Associates, Falls Church News Press, Eden Center, M2M Consulting. Our gold sponsors for 2024, Burke and Herbert Bank. I know y'all get a good showing today. Kensington Falls Church, Founders Row, Young Group, yay! Sizzlers, Tax Analyst. Our silver sponsors for 2024, Daughtry DDS, Helm Jenkins, Theo, New Edge Awards. And then our bronze sponsors, Body Dynamics, Chase and Tail, Clarendon Falls Church, Dominion Realty, North Realty, New Additions Consultant, and Sunrise Falls Church. And Dominion Energy. Thank you. I do want to thank all of our sponsors. Everything we do couldn't be done without you. We do appreciate it. Moving into upcoming events, we do have our March networking mixer. Usually we don't do the March event, but we're lucky this year. Eric Pelton is hosting his 25th anniversary, and that's going to be at Clarendon's Beach Shack on Tuesday, March 5th. So please make a note. Typically our mixers are done the third Tuesday, but this year March 5th month. Okay, we have our chamber orientation coming up Thursday, March 14th, 5:30 to 6:30. This will be hosted by National Funeral Home and Memorial Park. This is a great opportunity to learn more about the chamber, more about the benefits we offer, and how to get involved with the community. I was probably a chamber member for 6 or 7 years before I went to the first one of these, and it really opened my eyes. It's a good chance to learn about the tools that you have available, even if you've been a member a long time. And then the big event, we got our annual awards gala coming up Tuesday, March 21st at the State Theater. This year's theme is Escape to Paradise, and we now have it. We're currently accepting award nominations for Small Business of the Year, Large Business of the Year, Nonprofit of the Year, Company Culture of Excellence, and Pillar of the Community. Please take a few moments. It was in the newsletter that went out yesterday. Take a few moments. Go ahead and recommend some of these nominations for us so that we can recognize the outstanding businesses and people we have in our community. We're also accepting donations for the silent auction. This could be gift cards, baskets, personal experiences. We are looking for ideas, input on anything we can do to offer more this year with it. If you need more information, please contact Elise or Kathy for details. Okay, we're going to go around and do self-introductions. Please keep it down to name and business only this time around so we can speed it up so we can get to our presentation. And we will start off right here with you, sir.
Hi, I'm Brian Reach. I'm with the Falls Church News Press.
I'm Nick Benton with the Falls Church News Press.
Nick Gatz, Falls Church News Press.
Wayne Walker, owner of Sinorama at Tyson's Point.
Steve Stanford, M&T Bank and a board member.
Belay Khalid, Executive Director of the Learning Quest, also on the board.
Regan Davis, Falls Church City Public Schools.
Bob Young, the younger.
Steve Rogers, retired veterinarian and board member.
Mark Arrazzo, Burke and Herbert Bank.
Andrew McHugh, Fairfax County EDA.
Claire Wetzel, the Young Group.
Tag I'm in, right? Alnur Jamal, Fastest Labs at Falls Church.
Dan Amanoff with PNC Bank.
Dylan Brosser, Burke and Herbert Bank.
Mark Warren, Government Executive Media Group.
Graham Eddy Eden Center.
Alec Hurley, Edward County.
Naomi Goodwin, City of Falls Church Economic Development Office.
Becky Richmond, City of Falls Church Economic Development Office also.
Kathy Sulky, Falls Church Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for listening to the name and business affiliation only. We appreciate that.
Caesar with Video Physical Therapy.
Chris Rojan, Capital Travel Medicine, Arlington, Daniel.
Reese Herbert, Opportunity. Cheryl Hollis, the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment.
Brittany Spears, Value Drive Basement Waterproofing.
You said Britney Spears?
Edward Jones, board member.
Allison Miller, Keller Williams Realty.
Ramita Casey, Birmingham Bank, and also board member.
Kevin Portnoy, the Prophet Planner.
Robert Sharetta, the City of Falls Church Independent Media, we call it something.
Mary Beth Connolly, Falls Church City Public Schools, and Falls Church City Council.
Gaston Arauz, with Dominion Energy.
Reese Neal Bateson with the chamber. Please send nominations by Friday. We have some spots with no nominations. Send them in. And definitely put the calendar, mark your calendar for the 21st. Think warm thoughts, Margaritaville, Alexa, on the 21st. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for keeping that short with the names and introductions because I do want to get to our speaker today. I'm going to tell you, I'm honored to introduce him. I'm one of his biggest fans, and I will tell you they will be selling the Life and Times of the Falls Church News Press back there. I'm not here to pitch it. I got my own autographed copy from everybody, and I'm just proud to introduce this gentleman. If I can get Nicholas Benton up, owner and editor of the Falls Church News Press, and if I can get a round of applause for him.
Thank you. Yeah. Come and sit down. You can. Pull up a chair. Thank you. I have with me here my managing editor of many years, Nick Gatz, and also Brian Reach. That's the staff. That is the Falls Church News Press right here. So, talking about the future of newspapers in general, talking about the Falls Church News Press in particular, I started this paper in 1991. The first edition came out, and it was always premised on a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, going way, way back. People in this room, anybody remember the name Hap Day? He was one of the founding executive directors of the Chamber of Commerce, and he and I became good buddies. That's where our idea of a Monday lunch every week came from, and we talked about the issues and so on and so forth. The News Press was founded on the basis of being pro-business and to be able to provide a vehicle for advertising for small businesses in Falls Church. That was a primary motive of the paper. Now we're just about the only print edition newspaper in Northern Virginia left. Almost everybody else has gone out of business in terms of their print edition at least. And what I'm here to say, and Nick is going to take up the latter half of this program talking about the nuts and bolts of doing a newspaper. But I want to give an overview, which is kind of like, I want to ask people, when it comes to the demise of print journalism and so forth, what does this invoke in you? Anybody have any idea why I would bring this prop in particular to show? No clue, right? Yes.
So vinyl records went out of style and now they're back.
Very good. You get an A+ for that. That's the whole point, okay? Now in the United States, there's only 2 places in the whole country that actually produce vinyl in terms of recording, but it's like making it a huge comeback. And it's because of all the predictable reasons why digital just isn't cutting it. And same with celluloid and film, by the way, as opposed to digital. It's a big comeback. And the reason is, well, I got a couple of quotes here I want to quote from. One's from my editorial in this week's News Press, which quotes a columnist for the Washington Post, Megan McArdle. The internet dissected your daily newspaper into its constituent parts, letting readers find the news they want without ever having to buy a paper or visiting a homepage, and handing the most lucrative part, the advertising business, to companies such as Meta and Google that don't produce news. Then there's a quote from another Washington Post columnist, and her remark is to the effect that Facebook, Google, YouTube have mutated human communication so that connecting people has often become about pitting them against one another and turbocharging that the discord, turbocharging the discord to an unprecedented and damaging volume. And they have weaponized the news. I'm here to make the case that I think print journalism, print newspapers are going to come back and need to come back. And this is why one of the things that I stand forthright for is the continued publication of our newspaper in print and its distribution as widely as possible to everybody in the city of Falls Church, as we have done since 1991. Over 1,700 consecutive weekly editions of the paper have come out since then. And why I think that's important is because I think that newspapers, thank you. I think newspapers are a critical element of community building, city building, and nation building. If you go back to the beginning, what was the impetus for actually getting this republic going? It was Ben Franklin with his newspaper, right? He started a newspaper in Philadelphia. He began circulating it up and down the line. Then after the revolution, you had the Federalist Papers. How were the Federalist Papers distributed? Through newspapers around the country. Everybody read about it, everybody talked about it, and from that we got a constitution ratified. Coming into the 20th century, the role of newspapers was an increasingly important role in keeping our democracy intact. One of my favorite journalists was William Allen White from Kansas. He wrote the book, What's Wrong with Kansas? He was a Republican, but he was a staunch Roosevelt supporter. The reason why is because to be against Roosevelt was to basically be pro-Nazi in that era, and was the reality of the times. And he and the guy that was my mentor at the Santa Barbara News Press out in California was a similar type of person. He took the role of his newspaper very seriously, not just as providing news or providing information, but building community, building a city, building a nation, really. And that's the importance of newspaper. So the kind of newspaper that has got to come back in this country and to be an effective means of restoring our democracy has got to be that kind of paper that represents something vital to our democracy and not just basically a poop sheet of information. So with that in mind, I want to turn it over to Nick. We have done this for 34 years now. We just started our 34th year of consecutive weekly publication, and we have done it by a lot of tenacity and a lot of heartbreak and heartbeat from time to time, but we've never missed an issue. And so Nick can talk about how we do it from week to week and what our plans are going forward. How about that, Nick?
Sounds good.
All right. Let me sit down over here.
All right. So one thing we pride ourselves on is being part of the community. Without the businesses, without our residents, without the people here, this doesn't work. What we have is a vehicle that is there to support you guys. We are the voice of the people. We want, your message is getting out there. We want to offer a affordable and means to deliver your business messages. And, something we can do that big tech gets lost in, there's a human element. When you contact us, we can tell you, specifically where your ad will be circulated, where, those eyes will see your message. And that's where, it's a partnership in the sense that we're the vehicle that can get your message out. And, it's with your support that we can continue to print a weekly publication. And some of the things that, we're going through right now is the times in, inflation, increased costs, increase ink, paper, delivery, everything. So with that in mind, we're looking at some means of how to not only get the paper out there in people's homes. We're going through a process right now with the Postal Service that hopefully over the next couple of weeks we can specifically nail down and get the paper, to be delivered in the mail. So it's guaranteed in people's homes, post office boxes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one area that we're looking at moving towards. And then as far as with, I guess, the last 15, 20 years, there's been a move towards digital. This, when we talk to people, it's Facebook, Facebook, Google, Google. And the biggest thing I ask people when I talk to them is, you know, are you just posting on Facebook? Are you doing Facebook ads? Are you getting the ROI? Or the biggest thing I've seen is things become trendy and everybody says, well, you know, Facebook's there, it's easy. But is that actually working for you? You know, I don't know. That's where having feedback and dialogues with the business community, you know, for some people it might work, others it might not. The thing that we can do for your business is we can guarantee you that your ad is put in front of people's faces. Our paper is read by over 10,000 people on a weekly basis. It is in front of their eyes. It's, you know, that visual is there. Our paper is read cover to cover. That's not, it's unquestionable that, you know, we get calls weekly when people don't get their paper. It's almost funny in that they're getting mad at us in that, you know, we're delivering something to them for free. And sometimes it's like, we will get it there, we promise. So it's, you know, that's where we view this as a partnership. It's not just that, you know, when Sue or myself or any of our staff are looking for advertising, it's not, we're just looking to take your money. We need this to work for you. We need this to be, you know, a partnership. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for us. So we, you know, need that to work for everyone. And as far as the digital side of where we're headed, that's, we're looking at growing out our website to increase visibility that can extend beyond just the City of Falls Church. With that comes some of the residents, you know, going to sort of a hybrid model where, you know, there will be premium options on our websites that the residents can pay for. Maybe it's breaking news. Maybe it's, you know, videos. Maybe it's just like up-to-date live calendar streaming that, you know, they can access at all times. And the internet does allow some flexibility in the sense that we're limited in what we can't print everything. On the web, we can cover just about anything and everything. So that's, you know, where we're looking to go. And, you know, it's with everyone that we're able to continue to do this.
I would add that in the evolution of the news press, a turning point came for us in the mid-1990s after starting the paper and our collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. I became president of the Chamber for 2 years. Mike Diener, I don't know if he's here, he was president a couple of years. And Carol Jackson, who was just back in town, played a pivotal role in that all together. We talked about how to turn the Chamber around to a more community-centered approach by supporting the budget for the school system, which was a complete and total anomaly at the time because you had the business community combating the school community, and they were at loggerheads with each other for a good 20 years. And we were able to get the chamber to support the budget of the school board and to publicize that on the premise that, you know, economic development is for a purpose. Economic development is for the purpose of educating your kids, educating the community. And we've been are happy to say that that has been a big success for us in Falls Church, because look around you now. Look around at the level of economic development that is going on here on the one hand, and the state of the school system on the other hand, which is now a complete K through 12 international baccalaureate school system, highly regarded nationally. Everything else is a brand new high school, brand new middle school. At the same time, taxes actually are coming down. So we've achieved something here, you know, with the help of the community backing us, and we have supported smart development, smart growth in every referendum that has been put on the ballot to either restrict growth or to accelerate growth or to support the schools. The position we have taken has been the winning position in the eyes of the voters. So that's the story of the news press in a nutshell. The idea is to keep it going. And the idea is to have the public see why a print newspaper. Everybody gets a print newspaper. They got a whole week to look it through. They got a whole week to leaf through the contents of it, not just to look for what they think is their immediate interest, but to read things that are different than their own interest, to read high school sports, to read news and notes from the community, people that are doing well, winning awards, and all this kind of stuff makes for a community in a unique kind of way. And that's what we represent. That's what we strive to represent. We'll continue to strive to represent. And that's who we are. And we'll take questions. Anybody from you? Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. And since your premise is all about building a community and you're looking into the new generations, young people, how you convey that message to them that this is all about building a community when they use social media for many purposes, but they, as you mentioned, they're targeted or they look for things that relate to what they already want and they are not exposed to many other things. How you incentivize them to have that open mind to go over a newspaper and look and be exposed to things that they were not looking for?
Well, I tell you, the first thing is there's an awful lot of news presses up at the high school that are just laid out on the tables and the kids pick up and read. And I really prize myself in that accomplishment that these kids have been reading the paper. Young people in Falls Church are incredibly intelligent, incredibly with it in a lot of ways. You look at TikTok or you look at Instagram and things like that. What are they getting? They're getting the tiny snippets of this and that, right? Just like bombarded, like there's no consistency of thought. There is no argument. There is no dialogue back and forth. It's just, you're getting confronted with realities like that, and there's nothing to it. It's a nothing burger kind of thing. What you want kids to do, and I know most of our teachers in the Falls Church school system are really good at this, is they want to, and those are the fundamental principles of the International Baccalaureate program, is to give young people a context for looking at the information that's coming to them, putting it in context, and so that's a big part of what we do and take pride in. We have a school news and notes section of the paper every week, and we really put a strong emphasis on what young people are doing.
I think you should also do some TikToks, though.
What's that?
I think you should also do some TikToks, though.
Do some TikTok? Yeah. Well, okay.
We'll leave that up to Brian.
I think as a parent and as somebody who works in the schools, for a child to open up a print newspaper, a tangible newspaper, and see their name or see their picture, like they feel, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be famous, or this is awesome, or my mom can write it away and show my kids someday. It's something that's there that they can then take and show to their friends, or that's really important. And it's not just kids. I mean, maybe like your neighbors, like if they see you in the newspaper, then
sure, of course,
they can congratulate you when you're walking the dog, whatever. It's just like something nice that does bring the community together.
Yeah, I know that for me, even though the schools they're public schools, they have to pay their teachers and keep their programs alive. So they're not paid advertisers for us, but we recognize every single school event that we find. We try to get pictures of everything. We try to put as many pictures of the kids as possible, up when they're doing productions and whatnot. But and that is one way to draw them in, because if you see yourself, or if you might see yourself, you're going to check. But to answer the question of what they're doing, at Oak Street Elementary a week and a half ago, the 5th grade class, as a part of their IB program, they divide up into small groups and they pick somebody to interview or a topic. And because of the trends right now with schools and a lot of the attacks on trans kids and this kind of like culture war that's happening in school board meetings, the fifth grade class, or at least part of it, chose LGBTQ plus equality as their theme. And they chose me as their speaker because they read my column. And if a 10-year-old is getting to page 24 of a newspaper and reading it every week, I think that they are reading it. And I do think that the trend right now and the comeback that we're seeing is kind of coming from younger people first, that maybe older people or people my age and older have kind of seen the decline and may get a little cynical about it continuing, but you're seeing this upsurge, I think, from young people that understand, what is a community? You're not going to get that from MSNBC. You're not going to get, who is my community? You're curated by calendar section and school section and whatnot, kind of like a chamber of commerce that is local, and it kind of curates what the boundaries of the community are in a way, and kind of pulls it all together. So I think that there's some hope already for the kids being engaged.
Yes, sir.
I respect the work that you've done, and I worry about the future. And so I'm curious about whether this expansion of your online presence has risks to it to cannibalize your in real life readers, and whether or not, because I know you keep your thumb on the pulse of the industry, whether there are examples of other local newspapers who have been successful with this sort of transition.
Well, I think that's the struggle everybody's dealing with in the newspaper industry. I don't need to tell you how threatened community newspapers are, and newspapers in general. My solution to it is what I started to say. Newspapers aren't just newspapers. Newspapers are community builders, city building, operations, and communities and cities and the nation as a whole needs to get behind their revival on the kind of themes that really matter, and that's where the answers will come. I don't pretend to know all the answers to this. Everybody's different. The number of newspapers that are being taken over by what are these things called?
Private equity.
Huh? Yeah, but the more aggressive types of people that strip assets and all that kind of stuff. It's terrible what's happening to papers. These people who are doing it for money reasons only, rate of profit reasons only, have no interest in what the paper actually represents to a community. And they've bought big time newspapers. I mean, in Colorado and Baltimore, New York, the Los Angeles Times is the latest version. They're being bought by these outfits that just are out to strip them of their assets. And the first thing they see that they can cut and get away with is their newsrooms, because these are not generating value to their mind for their investors. So the way to combat it, I think, is to take a much more positive approach to what newspapers bring to a community, and to advocate for that, and to have find ways to get a community to back the newspaper. That's essential. When revenues are down and everything else, just getting a local community to pitch in and help and keep a paper going. Very, very important. Yes, sir.
There was a time when Congress felt the need to support local newspapers. They provided tax relief. They provided special mailing service relief.
Yeah.
This has all been pushed to the wayside, and your competitors, the internet, are not paying their taxes. As a matter of fact, the largest internet companies are now, of course, keeping many of their assets overseas in order to avoid paying any taxes.
Right.
This is what the newspaper industry is up against.
Right.
And this is what has to be addressed by a Congress who cares about local news coverage. So I think we all have to start thinking about how we can start pressuring our local representatives to fight that cause.
Yeah. Well, Amy Klobuchar is the only person in Congress I know has really taken this on. and advocating for local newspapers, advocating for newspapers in general to provide some of that kind of tax relief and so on. The other thing I would say about that is it used to be the day when the nightly news, CBS, NBC, ABC, had no advertising. And they did it as a matter of principle, that they did not want the news contaminated, or even the perception of it being contaminated by the pressure of advertising. And we kind of lost that too. But in the case of our newspaper, for example, and other newspapers like us that are struggling, we're all struggling, trust me, don't think we're not struggling, because we are. I think that the answer is got to be found in the community. It's got to be found in the people of a community that is being served, stepping up and doing their fair share to keep us going. Any other questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
I grew up in a small town in Smithfield, Virginia. We had the Smithfield Times that came out once a week. The community survived and thrived because of that little local paper. I moved to this area. I lived in Great Falls. I lived in McLean. There was no sense of community. Moved to Falls Church, and I found that small town sense of community in no small part because the news press told me there were things going on that I would have never known about. So thank you for my, I would pay for the paper that you give me for free.
Thank you, Steve.
Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your call to action? What do you need the people in this room to do? Advertise, subscribe, spread the word?
All the above. Keep going. They've got to step, we need support. People have got to step up and support us, okay? That's the name of the game. You're on the city council. You can help see to it that the city government, with its, budget, supports the paper with weekly advertising or whatever, the way they used to. We used to have a double truck in the paper every week, a full page of city news, a full page of school news. And that was good for a number of reasons, because it not only helped reinforce the distribution of information and news, but it was also seen as a counterpoint to whatever anybody might have thought was a little one-sided on our part. They could go to the city page and read it, and if it was in contradiction to an editorial position that I might have taken or something like that, they could read it there and get a balance. The key is that everybody in the community gets the paper, and that's why print is so important. I don't care what you say, when you have to go to the effort of clicking into an internet destination to find your news and find your information, you're not going to do it on a regular basis. If that newspaper is in your mailbox or on your front porch, you're more likely to bring it in, put it on your coffee table. If you don't read it right away, you have days to read it, and absorb everything that's in there. And that's why print, I think, is so important. And will continue to be.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
The mailing the newspaper.
Yes.
So is your intent that it's not going to be delivered in driveways anymore?
That is ultimately the goal.
But will it go to every address anyway? People aren't going to have to sign up to get it. It's going to...
Within the, city?
Yeah, not within the city.
Within
every address within the city.
Yes.
Part of the reason for that, too, is that with all the new apartments and everything else going into town, thousands of new addresses are here. We need to say they're getting the paper, and not just, in a mailroom downstairs or something like that.
So it'll go to every person.
Absolutely. That's our objective, right? That's what we're asking the community to support.
And I can touch a little bit on, that goes back to, I think, your question about what's the fear of diluting down the news. That is not our intent at all. It's what we value our paper on is, being local. What's happened with, some of the other papers, I won't mention names, is ultimately they tried to grow out. They tried to cover multiple communities. Instead of covering those communities, they said, hey, we're going to make one paper for Northern Virginia, and we're going to put 5 articles in there. Well, those 5 articles don't really necessarily apply to that individual. You know, if you have something going on in Ruston, the people in Herndon might not care. And then you have no articles about Herndon, and you're giving this publication to people in Herndon. Why are they going to care? Where what we want to do with the internet is just give more access to people who would rather see something online. It's not a matter, we kind of want to utilize both to their advantage. You know, mirror the two in the sense that if we put something in print, you know, if there's a video or some sort of multimedia piece that we, you know, obviously you can't print that. It's, you know, we start putting more QR codes. Hey, visit our website, see this video, see things that, you know, utilizing both means, not one or the other. It's not going to be, okay, we're only going to put things on the web, or we're only going to put things in print. The ultimate goal is to kind of mirror both and utilize the advantages of print or utilize the advantages of web, where there's technologies, you know, in computers that just don't exist in paper form. And it's getting the best out of all of that, not saying, okay, you know, we only want to do this, because I think there are aspects of print media. You know, I went to college as a print designer. That is how I got into the news industry. I think there's something very valuable and tangible in looking at something, you know, whether it's news, advertising, events, whatever it is, you tend to pay more attention to something in front of you. You know, I find myself doing this all the time. We're going through massive amounts of data, information. There's a lot of times where I'll read stuff, it just gets completely glossed over when you're going through 100 websites in 30 minutes. You're not, when you see something. And the other thing is, unless you really go back through your internet history and, oh, where was that? Most people don't do that. Whereas with a physical, tangible object, you can be like, oh, what was that place on, you know, page 3? I want to check them out. You can actually physically go back and look at that. It's a permanent fixture during that week news cycle that remains in people's faces. And it's, you know, that tangible object is important. And how we get back, you know, I don't have all the answers on, you know, where we go to, you know, but I think there's definitely more of an emphasis with children, especially. I find that myself doing this a lot with my wife too. It's, you know, when my daughter's on her phone for 4 hours, it's like, you know, go read a book, do something other than just staring at your phone for 4 hours. You know, it's not that we don't want her getting knowledge, but you know, I don't know if it's necessarily great to just stare at a screen all day. So that's
Anyway, that sums it up. That's our story. Any more questions?
One
Don't want-
more call to action. At some point in the near future, we will be offering to the community a way to, with a monthly contribution, become members or be able to support us easily with a small amount every month, just to kind of raise the floor and make sure that you're supplementing if there's, you know, an economic turn and advertisers go away or something, making sure the community holds that minimum level so that we can keep going. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yes.
Oftentimes members ask how they can get in the newspaper. They might have a story, they might have news. So maybe you can communicate how best they can reach out.
Email us. NFBenton at FCNP, NGATS at FCNP, BReach at FCNP. Send us your stuff. We'll find a way to get it in. We're happy to do that. You have a weekly column in the paper? Yep. Anybody got news they want to funnel through her, that's the way to do it too. We're here to support you, and we hope that we'll get sufficient support in return that we stay in business. That's our goal. It's been 34 years. It's never been easy financially to do it, but we're committed to it. Luckily, you have 3 monks up here who work for nothing. Almost. And, you know, so we welcome your support, and we got copies of the book that the late Charlie Clark did a fabulous job. He spent a year compiling, going through every back issue of the paper to put together this book called The Life and Times of the Falls Church News Press. If you want a copy, there you can get them right here, and make sure you take a copy of the paper that I think Brian put a stack out front.
They're punched up.
Yeah, and look through it and see where you fit into that paper the best. All right, thank you. Good job, gentlemen. Huh?
I don't think I can eat with a knife.
What?
I don't have a
I do want to touch on a couple things.
Huh?
Did you ever use this? I feel
No.
it was, and now I'm free of trying to click through and read stuff. I feel it was probably 2003 when I first reached out to this paper to run an ad. I could be off a year or two of the date, but at that point, I had already formatted in my head that hard copy wasn't the way to go, that advertising should be digital. I had that in my mind, and people kept mentioning this paper to me. This was to do with the restaurants at the hotels. And I ran the first ad, and I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to put something in here to prove me wrong. And I think I gave like 10 or 20% off if you brought this ad with you to the restaurant. So I remember it was August. I was trying to peak my Monday through Friday business. And I was completely blown away by how many people showed up with that ad in hand. That was back when we had the restaurant spotlight and we could do the advertising, and there was like once a month you did a focus on it. Over the years, as everybody in here probably knows, my most recent ad was in November. I have advertised and stayed with this paper, and the main reason I do is because everybody is reading it. We are given the perception that everything's moved to digital. If it's one of our Little League events, if it's one of our VFW events, anything I've done in this paper, I will hear it back 10 to 15 times that week after. Oh, I saw this in the paper. Oh, I saw you in the paper. Oh, I saw your ad with it. And I don't believe that really happens with a lot of papers. This paper is loved in this community, and it's going to every doorstep. So I'm not selling for them, but I can tell you I found a value in advertising in it. And because of the information in this paper, I didn't mention it, but we can subscribe because I don't live in the city. I'm the Greater Falls Church portion over in Pemmon Hills, but I'm a subscriber. I get it delivered. It's on my kitchen table every week because it also is a community paper. So when you're looking at budgets, when you're looking at options, think how we can support this paper. And I'm going to tell you, try it and put an ad in and see. Put something in to qualify it to get it back to you so you can track it. You'll be surprised at how many residents of the city don't just pick it up and toss it aside. They are reading this paper daily. To wrap it up, sorry for that, but I just want to really get that out. And something else they said, and then I'll wrap it up. Because I did get three. I finally got three following my little trail here of what I have to say. ABC, NBC, CBS. For those of us in the room who used to hate it as children because we lost our cartoons on our 4 channels at 5 o'clock because mom and dad had to watch that news. And even as we became older, prior to cable and all these channels, giving away my age, we also watched these news. We were all watching across this nation Tom Brokaw. We were all watching across this nation ABC Nightly News, NBC Nightly News, and Walter Cronkite. I was going that way. I wanted to get the old statement out, but that made us as a nation a community, because the next day we'd all seen the same thing. We could all talk about, we could discuss what's going on. We're in an age where media is, when you're online, the algorithms there are there to feed you what you want to see, what you want to hear. And the more you feed into it, the more you're getting back tunnel vision with it. When you pick up this local paper, you're seeing everything about the community. And with this paper, it creates a sense of community. We know whose kid won the game last week. We know who won the election. We know who won the tournament over at Meridian. There's a lot of that coverage in there. It actually gives us a sense of community that a lot of communities are not blessed with. And that's why I'm such a fan of this paper. So I'd like to give one more round for Nick. Applause for what he's done. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we do have a couple events coming up next week. We have a couple of ribbon cuttings. Tuesday the 27th, we'll have Forever Young. On Thursday the 29th, LP Dental will be hosting their ribbon cutting. And then, hopefully I say it right because they're in the room, Vigio will be actually having their 4th anniversary on Friday, March 1st. Congratulations, guys.